All right, we got something a little bit quirky today, a little different, you know? We have a Realm of the Mad God dungeon tier list. I figured now would be the best time because the warrior just died sadly, and we're at that kind of liminal space between playthroughs. And you may be asking, "Hey Drew, why didn't you do a class tier list?" That's because I haven't made a PP of all the classes yet. Otherwise, I would. That was my first thought. It was like, oh, I could just go in and rank all the classes. But I feel like it wouldn't be a fair judgment because I haven't played things like Mystic, Necro, shit like that. So we got dungeons instead. Also, this video is not sponsored by Improvica. Here, you can read that shit if you want. I don't know what the fuck they do. All I know is that they are annoying me and on my screen. Oh, one last thing before we get started. I had already recorded this entire video. I sat here looking at this fucking tier list for over an hour, only to realize that when I was adjusting in my chair at some point, I had accidentally flicked the switch on my headset mic to turn my mic off. And when I noticed that, I was like, oh my god, man, are you fucking kidding me? All right, but enough talking, enough shitting around. Let's get into it. All right, so starting off with the third dimension. I love Cube God and how he drops Sea Dirk. I hate how he never drops it for me. But the third dimension, right off the bat, this dungeon is kind of dog shit, realistically. Sure, it has a cool concept being like 3D. The bosses, the first boss is cool. Getting to the first boss is not that difficult. The first boss is not that easy, or not that hard, I mean. His drops are kind of lackluster, which is unfortunate. Fast forward to the second boss, rushing there, more difficult, but I don't think it's that bad. This is coming from a trickster player, so who really fucking knows? And then the second boss fight is it really that fun? I want to say it's fun, but it might, I don't know. It's much more difficult than the first fight. I wouldn't say it's like cripplingly hard, but it's not easy. And the drops are just kind of shit for what it is. So overall, C tier. By the way, I'm rating these based off of like just overall like looks, sound, minions, shit like that. I guess the only thing I'm excluding is like modifiers because that's random and who honestly gives a shit. Up next, Abyss of Demons. I fucking love this dungeon. Definitely A tier, between A and S tier for me. It's got beautiful looks. It's just a fun dungeon to run. Like even just like getting through the minions and shit is fun. You can have multiple treasure rooms. The treasure room looks awesome. The treasure room drops Vit and Def and has a chance of a white bag. And then my boy Malphus is just chilling at the end, surrounded by white demons who have a chance to drop attack. Himself, who honestly has like a 90% chance to drop just a Vit, which is fucking annoying, at least in my experience. And good white bags. So overall, A tier. Sea Depths. I do love me a good Sea Depths. I think Sea Depths are also A tier. Very nice looking dungeon. The minions are pretty easy. You just like, you can choose to rush. You don't have to. The minions are easy enough to where you can just slow clear and still go at a decent pace. There's a treasure room, which if you just lob a plague poison in that on Assassin, you get soulbound on every single egg, which is like the most satisfying thing in the world. And then once you get to the boss, it's got these unique mechanics where one egg, there's 4 eggs, one is shielded. You have to destroy the other 3 before you destroy that last one. And it's got a bunch of different phases and it's just cool. Not too difficult, not super easy. The eggs, as well as the boss, can drop Doku. And the spider summoner thing, I don't know exactly what it's called. I haven't used it, but it seems good. And just overall a really solid dungeon. I like it. Oh, and it drops mana, Greater Whiz, Greater Def, very good potions, especially Greater Whiz, because it's just a pain in the ass to grind otherwise, so it's nice to have it drop from a dungeon like that. Haunted Cemetery. Right off the bat, I want to say B tier. Is it B tier? I'd say it's B tier. If I'm choosing between a third dimension and Haunted Cemetery, I'm almost always going in the cemetery. It's got linear progression. There's 5 bosses. Each boss has a chance to drop the ST rogue set. The bosses get harder and harder as you progress. Drops a good amount of pots. Drops some okay loot, not great. By the end of it, the boss drops like tier 5 abilities, tier 12 armor, and can it drop tier 11 weapons? Maybe not. No, I feel like it can though. Who knows? But it's just that it takes so damn long to get to the final boss that it kind of bumps it down a tier. And honestly, the final boss isn't even what I look forward to the most when running this dungeon. I look forward to the second to final boss the most. To me, he's the most engaging, and I think he's the one that drops Aetheryte, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, maybe I'm slow. I don't know which one exactly drops Aetheryte, but that's like what is mainly worth farming for. Can get Plague Poison, can get Resurrection Armor. I think that's what it's called. And it looks nice. So overall solid, but not as good as Isu. Candyland Hunting Grounds, obviously a fucking D tier. I hate this shit. I cannot stand this fucking dungeon. Oh my, I can't stand it so much that my voice cracks even thinking about how much I hate it. It's got the lamest boss trigger. And by boss trigger, I mean you just fucking run around the dungeon. First of all, you hope to get a good generation where everything's like all in one straight line and then the boss room is at the end of that straight line. But it's just run around, kill minions, the boss spawns or has a chance of spawning, and then just repeat that for literally hours if you want. I'll go in, I'll do like maybe 10 bosses. Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I'm doing too many bosses to begin with. But like the only reason you're there is to get a pixie, really. It does drop def and attack, not super efficient. The whole thing is like a fucking fever dream. It's pink everywhere. It's a Candyland. Everything's like so positive. It's toxic. Like it makes me want to vomit. This one's probably going to be the most controversial one, I feel like. But yeah, it's just, if this were just removed from the game, I feel like it would actually improve people's lives. All right, up next, Crystal Cavern. Okay, so with things like Crystal Cavern, Cult, Void, shit like that, where they're like dungeons within dungeons, I'm going to do the parent dungeon first and then the dungeon. So like for Crystal Cavern, I'll do Fungal first. For Cult, I'll do Halls first. Make sense? Pretty simple. All right, so Fungal Cavern. I think it's B tier, not A tier. It's just not on the same level as Abyss and Seed Heps. It takes a while to actually get to the boss. It can drop Ring of Decades, which is one of the best rings in the game. It's the chonkiest ring in the game, I think, right? 190 health. That's a shit ton of health. Once you get past all the minions, the actual boss is honestly pretty engaging. I like the boss fight a lot. It's difficult. It is. I mean, if you run it, if I were to run this probably a dozen times, I'd probably get pretty comfortable to the point where I'm only rarely nexusing at the boss fight. But the main thing that like holds this back for me is how long it takes to get to the boss and the drops of the boss. Honestly, for what this boss fight is, the drops are kind of lackluster. The whites aren't fantastic. I mean, not all the whites are fantastic. It does have the crystal shield, which just makes you God for a few seconds when you use it, which is crazy. You can actually just sit on Oryx and be perfectly fine, which is a really good way to let another knight come in and stun if needed. I'm talking about O2, I guess. Even in O3, though, you become God for a few seconds. And also Crystal Worm Venom for Assassin, which is very good. It's like if the Ogmer was a poison. Overall, though, B tier. Looks very nice. Crystal Cavern. I'm gonna say it's right with its mama. It feels like Crystal Cavern should come before Fungal Cavern. This dungeon's just all around easier. Like maybe the minions hit harder. I don't even know if that's true. No, that's not true. I don't think. In my experience, Crystal Cavern is just easier than Fungal in every aspect. Looks cool. They got the same sort of design except for the boss fight. The boss has like some weird prism shit going on with its looks. The boss fight's cool. It is dangerous. You can get popped. I like that, but it's not too difficult where you just can't do it with a small group. But again, it's the loot that kind of holds it back for me and how long it takes to get to the boss. All right, Cultist Hideout, aka Lost Halls. So for this, I'm going to assume that we're going to NBC. Otherwise, I'd just be rating Cult twice. I'm going to say Halls. It's between A and B tier for me. I really like the boss fight. It's really engaging. I like the drops. The drops are good. But getting to the boss is kind of where I'm torn here. I'm going to say B tier. I was so tempted to put it in A tier. It's just actually clearing through the minions, especially if you're trying to do it solo. I mean, if you're doing it solo, you're probably rushing. But it's just how long it takes to get to the boss that it kind of holds it back from A tier. Otherwise, I'd be running this shit all the time. But I'm not, which is why it's B tier. NBC is super engaging. You have Cultist Hideout as an out if you don't want to do NBC, which also has good loot. NBC drops Sword of the Colossus, you know, all that good paladin shit, along with health and mana, which is very good. So I think it deserves a comfortable B spot. It looks cool. Doesn't look amazing, but it does have some bomb ass music. I will say that. Cultist Hideout. I'm gonna say B tier, just because it's got the same issue as Halls, where it just takes a long time to clear. Like getting to either of these take about the same amount of time. It takes a little bit more time to get to a cult, but pretty similar. This has a harder boss fight. NBC is definitely more difficult than a cult. A cult is, honestly, anyone can kind of do a cult and get away with it. It's not that difficult and has some pretty good loot as well. Davies. Oh my god, do I love doing Davies. I think, honestly, the thing with Davies is just the looks. This is A tier for me. Comfortable A tier. Realistically, it doesn't have too many drops. Like, it drops Wiz and Spirit Dagger, Ghostly Prism, Spectral Cloth Armor. It drops a piece of the ST Archer set as well, I believe. But really cool theme. Like, the ghost ship leading into this dungeon in itself is really cool. How you need to get 4 keys to finally reach the boss is cool. It's the only dungeon in the game that's like that. Honestly, I'm realizing that Realm just has a lot of unique mechanics that I like a lot. There's a ton of treasure rooms, and it's just a really good way to get Wiz quick, which, in my opinion, grinding for Wiz is such a fucking drag with the normal dungeons like UDLs and shit like that. Ddox. Oh, look at it. It's the old Ddox portal. Oh, it's so cute. I like the new one a lot more, though. But look at the little parrot. Isn't it crazy how, like, 10 pixels can just, you can tell it's a parrot? That blows my mind. I'm going to say Ddox is probably A tier. I run these almost whenever I can. You've got the big fucking crab, my arch nemesis, who drops greater speed, greater dex, and a life potentially, which is like insane for the work put into it. Honestly, the crab is the hardest thing in the dungeon, though. You got treasure rooms, or a treasure room. Can I have multiple? I'm not sure, actually. But you have a treasure room. I think you're guaranteed a treasure room, a crab, and obviously the boss, which is just crazy. And then big old John himself, who drops cutlass, greater speed, greater dex. I think life as well. And just, it's a fun fight, really cool theme, good music. One of my favorite dungeons in the game. Spider Den. B tier. Mainly, it's just too easy. Like, it's really good early on for getting loot. By early on, I mean like level 8 to 12. Really good for healing. Whenever I need healing, if I'm at a pause or shit and I feel like we're going to 03, I'll always try to find a spider den or 2. Looks cool. Is cool. It's just too damn easy. Puppet Master's Encore. What do you guys think of Puppet Master's Encore? I really like the dialogue. I like the theme and everything. It's kind of a boring fight, isn't it? I'm going to say B tier. Drops aren't too enthralling. Drops like, an attack or def. Can drop T-shot. Can drop that one prism that I don't think anybody uses. And it's just kind of, I don't know. If I were to run this all day, I feel like by the end of it, I would actually just want to kill myself. Forax. I believe it's called Forax. I don't know the names of any of the alien portals, really. I think this one's Forax, though. B tier. Good for pots. Annoying as hell. I fucking... God damn, the only thing saving this is honestly the pots. Is this even B tier? I suppose it is. Yeah, you've got that like acid that splits the ground into 5 sections, slows you down when you walk in it, does a decent amount of damage. Really annoying, especially for the final boss. But it's got a good amount of pot drops and some decent white bags. And it looks cool. I think all the alien portals look cool. Forbidden Jungle, nope, fuck this dungeon. I have no reason to run this. Maybe it's because I don't play staff classes, but like, you're going to have better gear than anything that this drops by the time you reach level like 18. So it's just a big fat waste of space for me. Sure, it looks cool, but the boss looks like a meatball. There's just nothing to enjoy about it. Maybe you enjoy that the boss looks like a meatball and you go say hi to him every now and then, but I don't. So it's D tier. Forest Maze. I'm going to say B tier as well. It's kind of got the same thing as Spider Den. Really good early on for getting loot, except this is even more early on. This is like level 5 to 7 sort of shit. Basically, as soon as I start a new character, I'll go into a forest maze and get like some decent gear. Usually tier 2 ability early on is nice from this. And it drops pretty commonly. It looks fine, doesn't look super cool. You can get weed from it if you want to just get blazed out of your mind. It's an alright dungeon. It's alright. The Hive. This is D tier. Is there any reason to run this dungeon? I think I've only ran 3 of these in my entire realm career. It's just kind of useless. Like the honey's annoying. Early on, it feels like the minions do too much damage for what the loot is worth. It's just dog shit. Looks cool, I guess, but that's why you have the nest. High-tech terror. I'm going to say B tier as well. Cool looking portal. I will say that. It like changes between green and blue. I don't know why it's smaller. It's pissing me off, but I just got to deal with it. Really cool boss fight. It's just that it kind of takes a little bit and the loot isn't that great for the effort put in. But really cool boss fight. Looks really cool. I think it's got good music, right? It's been a while since I ran one. Ice Cave. C tier. It just doesn't have the loot going for it. It drops fucking nothing, honestly. If it dropped as much loot as the sea depths, this shit would be like here or here. Would definitely be bumped up 1 tier, could even be bumped up 2. Looks cool. You can go ice skating if you want, I guess. Cool has been lore that I mention every single time I get into the dungeon for some damn reason. It's just, it drops nothing. Yellow alien portal. I'm gonna say A tier actually. This is one of my favorites. You just kind of hop in. There's a sandstorm that drifts across the screen. You just gotta follow that so you don't suffocate, I guess, in sand. When are they gonna add a sandcastle dungeon? By the way, I know we got ancient ruins, but I'm talking like I want straight sand. I'm getting sidetracked. It's just cool. It's just simply cool. I guess this is the closest thing to an all sand dungeon. It's just good pod drops, really good whites. It drops a T-shot, cutlass, and crystal wand. I don't know if people still use crystal wand or not. It's been years for me, but I like it. Cursed library. Oh my god, do I talk highly about this dungeon? I do love this dungeon with a passion. I so badly want to put it in S tier. Realistically though, is it S tier? Yes, I think it is. I think it is S tier. The amount of effort put in for the loot payout is insane. The dungeon looks really good. And actually, this came out just before they reworked Abyss, UDL, Sprite, Snake Pit. It was before they changed all of those, so they looked a lot better. So this was like the first of that phase. Looks really good, feels really good. It's got a second boss, which is kind of a pain in the ass to get to, but the second boss drops Corruption Cutter, which is my favorite dagger in the game. And it's just, again, insane for the actual work put into it. The boss drops underwhelming white bags, Necronomicon, and that one magic seal for Paladin. But it's the normal drops that are ridiculous. It drops Wiz and Vit, as well as potentially tier 5 rings, tier 5 abilities, tier 12 armor, and tier 11 weapons. Like, for this dungeon, that is ridiculous. Because this is, to me, one of the easiest Godlands dungeons to rush, and it's dropping better gear and loot than an Abyss, which is just insane. Lair of Draconis, C tier. Not D tier, because, I mean, it has some value to the game, but it's just, it takes so long. It takes so long. The loot is kind of underwhelming. The only reason you're ever doing this is if you're playing Ninja and you either want a Celestial Blade or that one Shuriken that drops from the final boss. Looks cool. Cool boss fights. See, like, if the bosses were to be on their own, spread out across 4 different dungeons, I'd be rating these a lot higher. Like, it'd be sort of the same deal with aliens, where if you just spread it out across 4 dungeons, like, you don't have to sit through fucking all of it. But because you have to sit through all of it, and the loot isn't that great, it's C tier for me. The machine. Oh, the machine. I do enjoy a machine from time to time. B tier, right? I don't know. I feel like, dude, this is one dungeon where people could go D tier, people could go S tier, because the white bags that drop from this dungeon are called mistake items, and the mistake items are just memes, just straight memes. You've got a wizard spell that shoots alphabet soup out of it. I don't know who thought of this, who added it to the game, but hopefully they got a promotion. You've got the Pogmer, which shoots an actual Pog face for half a tile that armor breaks for half a second. So it's effectively useless, but you can Pog if you really want to. It's like a true sign of being a Giga Chad, I guess. Like, imagine Pogging in Oryx's face as he dies. That's a big dick move. That's a huge dick move. I'm just going to say it's B tier, though. The overall dungeon's kind of boring. Doesn't have great drops. You get a potato, mostly, from this, which for most people probably bumps it up to A. I'm just going to leave it. Red. What's this called? Magnolia or some shit like that? I give it a B tier. It's got some weird ass blue enemies. It's like they're not even blue, they're like green. It's just odd. It's just very weird. There's one that looks like a cone-headed baby crawling around that dashes at you, and it just makes me uncomfortable every time. It's got a cool final boss. Honestly, that's the main reason it's in B. It's got okay drops. What is it? Ray Katana? No, not Ray Katana reskin. I forget what the katana is. I think it drops katana. The staff is shit. It's like the staff version of a Doombow, and I can't remember the other ones. B tier it is. Banner of the Immortals. B tier as well. B tier is just going to be loaded. It's one of the only dungeons that drops attack and isn't really difficult. Drops the rogue vampire set. Looks cool. B tier. Mad Lab. C tier. The only real reason you have to run this is if you're playing a sorcerer or a robe class and you want the Mad Scientist robe. Other than that, the wand isn't really great. The scepter is only if you're playing sorcerer. And you get a whiz, and if you decide to do second boss, you get a def. It's just not worth the effort. Kind of dog shit. Next. Mountain Temple. I'll go B tier. Nothing too crazy. Clearing to get to boss isn't that difficult. People can rush. You can teleport. The boss fight, they changed it. It's much more engaging now. Much cooler boss fight. It's just the drops I don't feel are really worth it. Cool looks. It is what it is. Magic Woods. A tier, actually. Super easy to run. You can do this like fresh from level 20. Drops an attack. Or not that. What the fuck? What is coming out of my mouth? I think I have grape soda on the mind. That's what it is. It drops a dex and a speed. The staff isn't that bad early on. It's mainly just the dex and speed. Looks really cool. I can't remember if it has music or not. Probably does. When I say music, by the way, I mean its own music, not the Realm Alien Rave music. The Nest. I do love the Nest. I'll go A tier. This is excluding fighting the bees, by the way, to actually get the dungeon to drop. Otherwise, this shit would be all the way down in D, along with fucking Shadows. Shadows would have its own tier of actually unplayable, just because Avatar of the Forgotten King exists. So once you're in the dungeon, how is it? Looks cool. Not too difficult. Just linear progression. Has a treasure room, which bumps it up. It's got lore. If you type Dr. Terrible, it says some shit. I know, crazy, right? And the boss fight is cool. It's a fun boss fight. And it can drop 2 life as well as dexterity. Has high tier drops, which is crazy to me. It can drop tier 14 armor, tier 13 weapons. I think tier 13 weapons, right? Probably tier 6 abilities, although I'm not positive. If it can drop tier 14 armors, I assume that it can drop 13 weapons, 6 abilities, maybe even tier 7 abilities. That sounds kind of ridiculous, though. Maybe not. All right. Wine Cellar. Oh my god. How can we not put the most iconic dungeon in Realm in S tier? When you think of Realm, after you get done thinking about all the hot garbage and dog shit in the game, you think about Wine Cellar and the O2 fight. Really good drops. It pulls everyone into the same area, everyone from the realm into the same area. It's like a giant orgy at the end of doing all the events. It's kind of like its own, it's like a parade. Just a really good dungeon. I like it a lot. It drops wine. Can't forget that. All right, next. Orcs' Sanctuary, aka O3. I gotta give it A tier. There's probably some crazy elitist assholes out there who give it S tier, but it's just, at the end of the day, realistically, I know. Don't yell at me. It's too hard. Oh my god, he's so bad at the game. He thinks O3 is too hard. Yeah, I do. For me, I don't think it's too hard for the loot. I think the loot makes a lot of sense. It has really good loot. It's just the rate of survival kind of bumps it down for me. I don't want it to be different though. Like I don't want this to be an easier dungeon. I love the way it is. It's just I'm not gonna run this every single time I see it. Whereas compared to a lib in a wine cellar, I'm gonna run those pretty much every time I see them. Really good drops, really cool, like end of the game kind of shit. Has 4 mini bosses that could be generated at the start. Really good drops. Actually, some of the best drops in the game. And I think it belongs in A tier. Ocean Trench. Holy fuck. I'm starting to think English is not my first language. I'll give it B tier. It's iconic. It's got some of the only realm porn out there. Or so I've been told. Like I don't do my own research. I got outside sources that help me. Is there anyone out there that has friends that research porn for them? Those are some good friends. Those are lifelong friends. Takes a while to get to the boss. Drops mana, drops Sibo, along as well as Sea Silk and the Trap, which is kind of underwhelming, but it is what it is. It's all right. Parasitic Chambers, Parasite Chambers. B tier as well. Drops mana, just like its cousin over here. It's really bothering me that some of these have fucking white boxes. God damn it. It is what it is. Cool boss, cool looking dungeon, really good music, actually. That's probably one of the things that carries it the most. The music is just really good, but the loot is kind of underwhelming. You don't always get a mana from it if you're doing it with a group. And the white bags are good, but they're white bags at the end of the day. Next up, one of my favorite dungeons, Pirate Cave. Oh man, what just a little piece of heaven. I give it B tier. Obviously the easiest dungeon in the game, but you know, it's just nice to sit back, relax, look at the nice crystal clear water, listen to the music, kill some pirates. It's a breath of fresh air in a polluted world. Puppet Masters Theater, B tier, maybe A tier. Look, we got both the theaters right in line with each other. I think it's meant to be. Yeah, B tier it is. Chance at multiple treasure rooms. Clearing isn't that difficult. The boss is pretty easy. Drops attack. Cool theme. Really good music. Actually, fuck it. A tier. The music, theming, and how many treasure rooms can be in this dungeon bumps it up to A tier for me. Chance of 4 attack from one dungeon. That's just crazy. As well as like STs and white bags. And it drops some skins. What is it? An assassin skin and I forget what the other one is. It's like Trickster or Huntress or some shit like that. I think it's Trickster, but good dungeon. I like it. Sniderian Reef. That sounds like some hardcore ass drug. Smoking some Sniderian Reef. I'll give it B tier. It's literally just one room, but it's got a cool design. I don't know if it has music or not. It's got an interesting boss fight. It's all right. It's kind of not too much going on with this, and the drops are all right. It's just kind of there. Ancient Ruins. B tier as well. At one point in time, I would have loved to put this in A tier, but it's just not realistically. It's not that hard to rush. Looks really cool. The whites are not that great. Can have multiple treasure rooms. I think up to 3 treasure rooms, which is crazy. It's mainly the STs and just the pots from this. The boss drops one of a random stat potion, excluding health and mana. Can't drop those. Or maybe it can. I just haven't gotten lucky enough. But I've ran hundreds of these and no life or mana, so you tell me. The ST set is really fun and interesting. I like it. Toxic Sewers. How many of these dungeons have I ended saying I like it? Probably a lot. I give Sewers a B. It's kind of hard to get to the boss. That's the main thing. But you got the Golden Rat, which is cool. Drops Death. I think also has a chance to drop White Bag. You've got the fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles themselves here. I can list them now. Ready? We got Raphael, the red one. Michelangelo, the orange one. And then I get the blue and purple one mixed up. I think Donatello's purple and then Leonardo's blue. Is that right? I don't know. It could be the other way around. I think that's the case though. And then the actual boss is interesting. You get Murky Toxin from this, which is really good. You get Void Blade for some. Why does Void Blade drop from this? Makes no sense. But you just get a ton of death from this dungeon, so it's pretty good. It's just treasure rooms aren't always there, golden rats aren't always there, and getting through all the minions, it can be quite difficult. Shaitan's Lair. Before they updated this would be an easy C tier for me. But after I don't know when they updated it. Honestly, probably years ago, and I never realized. I'll give it a B tier. Really cool fight, really cool theme. You get to see his face melt off, which is interesting. I don't think any other dungeon has done that. I'd like to see more of that personally. No, it's not a kink. It just looks cool. But decent drops, harder boss fight. I have a good time in Shaitan's. Shatters. Oh, fucking boy. Oh, boy. Okay. All right. This is another one of those dungeons where the elitists are going to disagree. But for me, I think Shats is probably C tier. I hate to say it. It takes a long time to get to the first boss. First boss is hard as fuck. Actually hard as fuck. Always clench my balls when I'm going through that fight. After that, honestly, I've barely even gotten past that. I think I've had the option to do Archmage like 4 times, and then I've never done Forgotten King since they changed the dungeon. But it's crazy. This dungeon is crazy difficult. Maybe it's because I've never run it with a huge group, but in my experience, it's just insane. Bird Sentinel drops are just not worth the time put into it. It does have some of the best gear in the game, though, which is why some elitists may enjoy it. Really cool theme. Some of the absolute best drops in the game, if not the best drop in the game, with the Chrysalis of Eternity. Looks cool. That's about it. Snake Pit. I'll give it an A tier. It's kind of just go in, get your pot, get out. It takes like 30 seconds to a minute. Really quick. Cool theme. Cool design. Treasure rooms. Not too difficult. Good payout for what is put into it. Snake Eye Ring, which is insane. I don't know how that's not a white bag. I'm sure they'll change that at some point because it really feels like it would be a white bag. And maybe if they make it a white bag, they'll give it a buff too. That'd be cool. I'd like to see that. And also some decent white bag drops. Sprite World. Sprite World, I think, is also A tier. You hop into it, you start running around a little bit. There's sprites everywhere. There's sprites in the floor, like various art on the floor, which is cool to me. You've got mini bosses, which have a chance to drop attack on your way to the boss, which is always nice. And then Lemon herself can drop mainly Dex, but also has a chance of dropping Def, which is really good. The ST ring that drops, the cuboid ring, is actually surprisingly good, especially early on. And you get some good white bags as well. Cave of 1,000 Treasures. Honestly, I don't really like this dungeon that much. I don't think it's C tier, but it's like low B tier for me. Like, it's not randomly generated. It's just the same fucking go through every time. Honestly, I can't even be bothered to kill the minions because the minions have like half the health pool that the boss has. It does have the Indiana Jones boulder, which I like, but it's not threatening enough. You can just hug the wall and it won't even damage you. I wish it would just one-shot you realistically. Or do like fucking 400 damage. Because it is a boulder rolling at you, right? I think one-shots would be unhealthy for the game, but I do think it should do like 400 damage, realistically. Because there's no enemies there anyway, so like you're almost always going to be full health. So there's no real risk. You just go back into a little cubby till you're healed up. You've got flame traps. It's kind of just if Indiana Jones was a realm crossover. The boss is lame. The boss has a wide range of drops. That's pretty much it. Secluded Thicket. Oh my god, I do love thickets. I used to not enjoy these at all. Recently, I've been so into running thickets. Really good design. Good music. Does it have music? Maybe not. I don't know. I remember enjoying the music. It's got really good linear progression of the first boss being not that difficult, the second boss being a bit harder. The second boss still isn't that hard though, which is really nice, and he's got good drops. And then the third boss cranks up the difficulty a lot and has even better drops. And it's just the whole dungeon's themed really cool. I like it a lot. Tomb of the Ancients. Shit. B tier. Takes a long time to get to the bosses. The bosses don't trigger till you kill all the sarcophaguses. Has a treasure room, but the treasure room, honestly, if I see somebody call T, I would almost rather just continue looking at porn on my other monitor than actually go to the treasure room. But the boss fight is engaging, I guess. I feel like Tombs would be a lot better if you just remove the pillars. Because there's those 4 pillars on the corners, and it makes the dungeon so much easier. Like, imagine how difficult Tombs would actually be if you just remove those. It'd be great. But the main thing that's carrying this is the looks and how it drops potentially 3 life, as well as has some pretty good white bags and STs. UDLs. I'm going to give UDL C tier. I have no reason to run this unless I'm going for a Doombow. Every other time, it gets outclassed by Curse Library for me. Sure, it can drop. It has some treasure rooms. Treasure rooms are pretty easy. Not a very hard dungeon. It's just, I really have no reason. Okay, hold on. B tier. I'll say B tier. It looks good. It's got decent music. It's just super easy. Get in, get out sort of thing. Whiz. Maybe a Doombow. It is what it is. Blue Alien Portal. I'm going to say A tier. Pretty easy. Good potion drops. Looks cool. I love my aliens. And you can kind of just cheese the final boss by going back and forth between the portals because you get immunity for like a couple seconds. And the whites are really good. That's the main thing, is that you get Corruption Cutter reskin, Wand of the Fallen reskin, and Ray Katana reskin. Very good whites. It's not difficult. Not a difficult dungeon. Void. I've only done like 2 voids up to this point. So I'm not too informed on this. Probably A tier though. It's not something that you're going to be running all the time, and I think that's a good thing. I think that increases the value of it. Really hard boss, really good drops, It's just everything kind of makes sense. It's got cool themes, a lot of text, and I just like it. I want to run more of them. And our final one, last but not least, Wood Lab, coming in at A tier. I run these almost every chance I get. Really good for vit and attack. This is like my main source of attack. You can get life as well, which is hard to believe, honestly, because it just never fucking happens for me, but it is what it is, I suppose. But really easy to rush to the boss. You almost never have to nexus unless you get like paralyzed by that one tree. But once you learn, like once you've dodged him a couple times, it's pretty easy to dodge him. Boss isn't that difficult. It's got a treasure room. It's got good white bags. Overall, solid dungeon. I like it. And that is every dungeon in Realm ranked. Oh, with the exception of Wetlands. I should have mentioned that earlier on. Yeah, so this list is clearly before Wetlands came out. If I had to rank Wetlands, I'd probably put it in a B tier. Wetlands looks really cool. Just the drops aren't really worth the effort, sadly. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this episode. Let me know what you guys think of the list in the comments. This is gonna be one of my most controversial uploads ever, I'm sure. But I look forward to it. I look forward to reading the comments. All right, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching. If you did, remember to like, comment, and subscribe or not. It's up to you. That is the beauty of this whole thing. The power is in your hands. You could tell me to fuck right off and shove it up my ass, or you could just click that button. It's just a simple click, maybe 2 clicks, maybe like a like and a sub, or maybe a dislike and a sub, which you're kind of sending mixed signals. But you know, I guess it still helps me, so I appreciate it. But with that being said, if it's day for you, have a good day. If it's night, have a good night, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.